London. Come on. Oh. This is a lesson I really need to learn for myself. This video is about the beauty of unfinished. This video has taken me 5 years to make. It's a video about Sexy Baths, the writer of this tune, and maybe one of the most beautiful pieces of art ever made, but never completed. My name's Phil Wilcox. I'm a poet living in London, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I want to tell you a story. A few days ago, I went to an art gallery in Trafalgar Square. You might know Trafalgar Square from Red in Monopoly. The sexy lion bum and the National Gallery. There was a special exhibit by this Renaissance painter, Titian. Apparently it's pronounced Titian, not Titian. So after entering the gallery and wandering through some of the Renaissance paintings, seeing ugly babies, balding women, ripped Jesus giving me body shame issues. Is it just me? What does the devil look like? Gruffalo. It's at this point I want to kind of apologize and say I was kind of told off for filming there. Apparently you're not supposed to film in the National Gallery, so I didn't get many shots in the actual Titian exhibit. Everything that I got that you're going to see now is kind of on the sly, so apologies for that. After stepping into the exhibit, it's clear that Titian is all time. Definitely on the level of Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael. Probably the only reason Titian wasn't a Ninja Turtle was because he has the word tit in his name. He's one of those artists like, I don't know, Bowie and Picasso, Nicolas Cage, who had like a long career with multiple phases. Scratch out Nicolas Cage. And Titian lived for a real long time. He started off doing kind of portrait work where he would try and capture the inner life of his subjects, not just the look. He experimented with light and color. And later on in life, he even kind of flirted with doing abstracted and expressionistic kind of elements in his painting. Titian was a master, and his masterwork was the death of Actaeon. Now, the death of Actaeon is a painting based on a story by Ovid in ancient Roman mythology. And it goes something a bit like this. A hunter, Actaeon, and his good boys who helped with the hunting were in the forest when they came across a beautiful woman bathing naked. Boom, boom, boom. But this woman wasn't actually a woman. She was Diana, a goddess of the hunt. Now, Diana was not too much of a fan of Actaeon's big deviant energy, so she decided to quieten him up by turning him into a deer. Now, it's a pretty extreme measure, but it was even more extreme because then when he turned into a deer, all of his doggies who were used to hunting started hunting him down, pulled him apart, tore him up, and he died.
A little update, I bought a mask.
Titian did 2 paintings in this set.
Oh, this is the first picture I think that Titian painted in the series. We have Hunty Boy, and then, foreshadowing. Yeah.
And this painting's super famous. I got a face mask of it in the lobby. By his real work was the final one, the death scene, the transformation of Actaeon into a deer. Titian worked on the death of Actaeon for 17 years before his death. And this was kind of common for him in his later stages. He would be quite protective and precious about his work and not wanting to release it. He would hold on to some of his paintings for years, sometimes decades. If you look at an X-ray of the death of Actaeon, you can kind of see all the different brushstrokes where he worked and reworked and went over his painting, trying to make it right. I can relate to Titian a lot here. I am terrified about putting work out into the world, and for me, I think it's all about ego. I don't know if this is something that maybe you struggle with like me, but for me, I write and I perform and I teach poetry, and I'm lucky enough to do that for a job, but even still, the idea sometimes of putting a poem out into the world or even documenting the process of creating a poem is terrifying. It's about control. If I can control and limit how much or what I put into the world, then I can, in my own head, control how people perceive me. And I mean, that's ridiculous. What if I draw this out? Okay, over here. Okay, this is my party theory on producing art. Have you ever been in a party and it's you feel a bit awkward, you don't know what to say, maybe you feel dumb and stupid and what you have to say doesn't really matter? I've been there before. It's not a good feeling. This is a little bit like being insecure about putting art into the world. You might have thoughts of like, I'm no good. Or maybe you have thoughts which is like, actually, I'm really good and maybe I'm above this conversation. It's all small talk. And so maybe it's even like the opposite. I'm too good. But either way, if you keep that to yourself, I mean, who knows what you are? All of that is just in your head. It's all ego. And I know that sometimes it can be like actual crippling anxiety, but sometimes it's just ego. And art's kind of like that. If you don't share things, ideas, conversations, art, if you don't put it out into the world, it never has a chance to be tested or enjoyed or sometimes rejected by people. And that's dangerous because then the only judge is yourself, and you're an inherently biased judge of your own stuff. It's ungenerous, it's all ego-driven, and that's my party theory. Did that make sense? Artist and wise purple boy Donatello pioneered an art style called non finito, or the unfinished. He deliberately left his sculptures rough and unhewn in places. I just stumbled across one of these styles of non-finito artwork, this time by Michelangelo. It's a work in the National Gallery called the Manchester Madonna. You have those figures on Mary's right who just aren't painted on. And if you see down in front of Mary, you have little baby Jesus, the divine reaching out and seeing something that's not there. Now, maybe Michelangelo didn't intend for that to happen. Maybe Michelangelo just kind of forgot or didn't get round to painting those figures. But to me, there's something beautiful about that. In a similar way, Titian's The Death of Actaeon is beautiful, even revolutionary. The lack of polished brush strokes, the chaotic, blurry energy fits the subject of the painting. The way that Actaeon blurs into the background of the painting, the splodgy green mist. There's a chaos to the painting, but there's also an aliveness. There's an energy that is dangerous, that fits what is happening to Actaeon here as he's ripped apart by his very own hounds. So, what does this mean? Well, as I mentioned earlier in this video, I have spent 5 years trying to work up the courage to start a YouTube channel. 5 years. I'm a grown man. And maybe, although it's embarrassing, it's exciting that it's finally happening. And it's not exciting because it's amazing quality. This is the first proper video I've ever made. I don't know how to frame a shot or like talk to a camera or edit, or I'm not good at these things. I'm working these things out as I go, but I'm committing to release a video on this channel once a week. Non-finito, unfinished, beautifully or unbeautifully unfinished. And maybe that can be an inspiration for you for putting your own creative work or work in general out into the world. So if you're interested in hearing weekly videos on creativity, poetry, and how it might intersect with a flourishing life, click like, subscribe, that little bell thing when you subscribe. Apparently that makes a real difference. And I'll see you next week. Oh, and you might have noticed this tune playing in the background of this video. It's by the composer Bach, who was no stranger to unreservedly just putting work out into the world. In fact, Bach would compose a whole cantata for his church in Leipzig every single Sunday. And this was his last piece. It's called The Unfinished Fugue. Written on his deathbed, it abruptly ends here. Unfinished. I think it's beautiful. Unfortunately, I think I might have damaged my microphone. It's just here when I went in that water, but hopefully not.